I've got some bad news for you guys. We are all idiots. We shouldn't be doing this diet, and there's absolute definitive proof. And I'm going to react to that proof today. Just before we get into it, I would love to feature your carnivore story on the channel, and I'm aiming to get to 1,000 stories by the end of the year. As a result, I've opened up my schedule as much as I possibly can, and I would love to hear from you and hear your story. If you'd like to share your story, please shoot me an email to realzerocarb@gmail.com and let me know your name, how long you've been on carnivore. I'll get back to you and we'll set up a time that works for you and we'll have a chat. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Okay, let's find out why we're all misguided idiots. Let's have a look. Science Based Medicine has an article here, skeptical of the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is the latest fad diet that is particularly pseudoscientific. Interesting. Okay, so humans are clearly omnivores. Okay, that's a good start. All right, so let's just have a look at this article. Let's open this in a new tab, and we'll flip over to this tab. Oh yes, okay, I'll accept your cookies. And so that link opened onto a page titled "Evidence for Meat Eating by Early Humans." Okay, let's go back. There are multiple lines of evidence to support this conclusion. Ooh. And regardless of what our ancestors ate, we now have decades of research into diet and health that supports a fairly simple conclusion. Eat a varied diet, eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, don't overconsume calories, and everything in moderation. So we had decades of research, have we? We've also got decades of evidence of what this diet does to us, what the food guidelines do to us. Look around you, go into a supermarket and look, open your eyes. There's your evidence. I don't care what decades of research says. The supermarket tells me all I need to know. Okay. For most healthy people, if you follow this basic guidance, you will be most of the way to having a reasonably optimal diet in terms of health. There are tweaks for people with medical conditions like diabetes. I've got news for you. You don't need to tweak any diets for diabetes. The reason people have diabetes is because of the diets. Tweak them into the bin and just get them on a diet which excludes carbohydrate, and you're good. If you want to squeeze out some additional optimization, the evidence generally points to a so-called Mediterranean diet as close to optimal. Define Mediterranean. All right. Oh, lots of fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, fish, some meat, and heart-healthy fats like olive oil. Yeah, okay. Whatever you say. All right. There, in one paragraph, I just summarized what most people need to know about diet. You think you did. But there is an entire self-help industry worth an estimated $71 billion giving out fad diet advice and selling dieting products. That is a lot of incentive to sell nonsense. Well, yeah, there's a lot of fad diets being sold out there, and a lot of courses, and a lot of powders and supplements that you don't really need that make up this industry. And there's a lot of stuff out there that is designed not to basically do nothing but make you think it's going to control your weight or other conditions that you may have that should be cracked down on. Having said that, the carnivore diet, as you've stated up here, you've classified it as a fad diet that is particularly pseudoscientific, right? But the carnivore diet is not actually a fad diet, but it's also not one that there's people running around selling lots of stuff about, right? You don't need to buy a course to do the carnivore diet. You don't need to buy special potions and books and all sorts of stuff to to do a carnivore diet. You don't need some special coach to be, coaching you through your recipes and all this kind of thing. Just go to the supermarket and buy meat and eggs. You're done. That's it. You don't have to pay anyone anything. You pay the supermarket as you are every other day anyway. That's it. There's nothing to sell here. There's nothing to buy here. Okay. So, no nonsense is the carnivore diet. All right. Now, and also a fad would indicate it's some kind of trend that's going to fade out or something like that. Carnivore's been around forever. It's not a fad. General common sense advice is also not enough for some. Psychologically, there can be desire to focus obsessively about the details of one's diet, or the belief that extreme diets are somehow healthier than diverse ones. What makes a diverse diet better than an extreme one? Extreme being, if you define extreme as cutting out particular things. What makes a diverse diet better? And how do you define diverse? If I have 2 or 3 vegetables a day, is that diverse enough? Or do I need to go crazy diverse and have like 6 different vegetables every day? And like if I repeat the vegetables on particular days of the week, it's no longer diverse enough. I have to like start mixing it up a lot more. This is why diverse is too nebulous and vague a term. Same as balance. Just make it balanced, guys. In the extreme, this condition is termed orthorexia nervosa and is considered an actual disorder. Carnivore is not like that. Carnivore is not an eating disorder. I've had a professional on to talk to me about it, and I'll link to that video in the description. This is likely a largely manufactured condition, meaning it is created by the diet industry, constantly obsessing over good foods and bad foods. This is about carnivore. How's the diet industry involved in carnivore? The diet industry wouldn't like carnivore because there's no money in it. This is embedded in the self-help industry general approach to life, which is to find a hack or one crazy trick to solve complex problems. The carnivore diet. There are countless diet fads, all worthless, and the latest iteration, if perhaps the carnivore diet. As the name implies, this is a typical diet fad in that it takes the good and bad food approach. Meat is good, eat only meat. Plants are poison, avoid them at all costs. Doing this will magically cure all disease. The interesting thing about this is it does kind of fix things for people. I've got nearly 800 people on my channel telling me I don't have diabetes anymore. I don't have joint pain anymore. I don't have psoriasis anymore. All these things have improved. I've experienced improvements as well. You can't argue with people staring you in the face and telling you things have improved. You just can't. Before we get into the theoretic problems with this diet, I said problems with this diet, we should note that there is no clinical evidence that an all-meat diet is not harmful, let alone that it is healthy or has any advantages. What clinical evidence is there that eating a Mediterranean diet is not harmful? What clinical evidence is there that eating a Mediterranean diet is healthy or has any advantages? I'm waiting. Proponents mainly cite anecdote and testimonials. That's not good enough for you? Someone reversing their type 2 diabetes saying, hey, I reversed my type 2 diabetes. That's not good enough for you. They need to eat boxes of Fruit Loops every day and be involved in a study to prove one way or the other whether it helps them reverse their type 2 diabetes. There are not studies on the long-term effects. There are. Look at the thousands and thousands and millions and squillions and billions and cajillions of years that people have been eating meat. Short-term studies that exist are basically worthless because almost all diet studies show short-term weight loss because subjects are on a diet. We're not just talking about weight loss. Weight loss is a minor factor, actually. I mean, some people, weight loss is a big thing because they've got a lot of weight to lose. For me, it was a big thing because I just wasn't happy with my weight. But in the grand scheme of things, for most people, the weight loss is the icing on the cake. It's not the main event. It's all the chronic conditions just going away or lessening that is what people really, really like about the carnivore diet. Um, Long-term outcomes are all that matter anyway. Well, there's people been doing carnivore for years and years and years, decades and decades and decades, and they're doing really well. And they look much younger than people who have been doing a standard diet. A quick PubMed search did not come up with anything in humans anyway. There are a lot of studies in actual carnivores, cats and dogs, but not people, because people are not carnivores. Who says? People are facultative carnivores, the same as dogs. Dogs will eat any old crap that you give them, same as humans will. Interesting thing about dogs, they also get chronic conditions just like humans, but only the ones that get fed like us. That's interesting, isn't it? Isn't that worth some kind of study? The diabetes dogs happen to be the same dogs that are eating the same crap that we are. This is a complex area of research to summarize quickly, but what decades of research has shown overall is that while meat in the diet is healthy, there are increased health risks to high levels of meat in the diet. Further, there are health benefits to eating plants and fiber. What might those health benefits be? What's the health benefit of fiber? It's not essential and it's not a nutrient. So, what's the benefit of it? How is fiber any better than me eating cardboard? Let's have a look at these increased health risks. I clicked on the, oh God, Harvard. What's the beef with red meat? Okay, I'm not going to read through this whole article because it's Harvard. I'm just going to go down to the relevant paragraph so that I'm not berating you with Harvard propaganda. Okay, red and processed meats do increase health risks, in spite of what the annals of internal medicine say. What would those idiots say? It's us, the Harvard geniuses that know everything. Dr. Hugh says that an accumulated body of evidence, where is it? Shows a clear link between high intake of red and processed meats and a higher risk for heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and premature death. Yes, but what you're doing is you're equating red meat in a diet that has a lot of carbohydrate, specifically refined carbohydrates in it, and you're going, they eat meat. The more meat they eat, the more likely it is that they're going to develop diabetes, cancer, heart disease, etc., etc. But the fact they're eating more red meat a week than the other person doesn't account for the fact they're also eating more fries and Coke than the other person, because most of their meat consumption comes from McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or wherever. So Harvard can stick that up the jumper. Okay. So, yeah, whoever wrote this, I haven't looked yet, but whoever wrote this, yeah, good job. One good point that critics of the carnivore diet raise is that meat does not contain vitamin C. Yes, it does, just in trace amounts. Humans cannot synthesize vitamin C and have to get it from our diet. And in fact, this has been true for millions of years with our direct ancestors. Okay, so if it's been true for millions of years with our direct ancestors, where were they getting their vitamin C? Were they getting their vitamin C from fruit? And if they were getting it from fruit, what happens in winter when that fruit wasn't growing? Where did they get their vitamin C then? Um, People that lived in like frozen areas that where nothing could grow. for many, many months of the year or all year, where were they getting their vitamin C? Where did it come from? A diet that is missing a critical nutritional element cannot be optimal. Correct. But the carnivore diet is not missing that because there are trace amounts of vitamin C in meat. And when you're consuming the meat on a carnivore diet, the vitamin C can be utilized because it's not competing with glucose for uptake into the cells, right? Whereas if you're eating a omnivorous diet or a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet, the glucose is competing with the vitamin C for the cell for transport into the cells, and the vitamin C is probably going to lose out a lot of the time, and so you need to eat more vitamin C to make sure that you actually get enough into your cells. Otherwise, why are all these people talking about the carnivore diet on YouTube who are doing the carnivore diet? Why aren't they keeling over with scurvy? Why? Seems to be a hole in your argument here. Also, if an all-meat diet were optimal, you need a comma here, mate. Also, if an all-meat diet were optimal, evolution would have taken care of vitamin C issue a long time ago. It did. It's in the meat. I already mentioned that. So, this is both evidence that our ancestors consumed plants and that an all-meat diet is unhealthy. What about the ancestors that didn't consume plants? Lived in an area where plants couldn't grow. What did they do? They just died, did they? One of the silliest arguments for the all-meat diet is put forward by Carnivore MD. Well, this is Paul Saladino, so it might be silly. Who argues that plants are poisonous, therefore we should not eat plants. It's funny how people that stop eating plants start feeling really good. It's this amazing thing. He starts with a kernel of a fact, but then completely goes off the rails. Yes, many plants evolved to produce toxic substances to keep them from being eaten by animals, but you can't stop there. Obviously, the world is full of herbivores, of animals that survive by eating plants. Yes, but we're not herbivores. And, like, you look at a cow. How many stomachs has a cow got so that it can process the food that it's eating? So animals have clearly evolved to tolerate these toxins, or else the carnivores would have nothing to eat. Okay, good point. But are you going to go to the zoo and start trying to force feed broccoli to a lion? Good luck. Also, not all plants use that strategy. Estimates are that about half the plants in the world are edible by humans. Okay, but are those plants that have been modified in some way over time so that they can be edible by humans? And does that mean they should be eaten by humans? Just because it's possible to eat them, does it mean we should eat them? That doesn't mean you would want to eat them, but they are technically edible. We can digest them and deal with any toxins. Okay. Evolution goes both ways. It is better to think of this situation as evolutionary warfare. Plants evolve defenses, and animals evolve ways around those defenses. All right, but why does you're writing this as though you're saying every animal, okay? So why don't lions and tigers, for example, eat plants? Why don't you see a tiger climbing a tree looking for coconuts? Huh? Further still, some plants, fruiting plants, evolved a strategy of producing yummy and nutritious plant flesh to help disperse and germinate their seeds. They bribe animals with good food to provide this service. This breaks the logic that plants don't want to be eaten. Sometimes they do. Okay, but in the past, fruit was seasonal, and you didn't have year-round access to any fruit that you wanted. Like, where could you get a pineapple in Ireland 500 years ago? When I moved from Scotland to Australia as a kid and I first saw a melon, I thought that seemed really exotic to me. Like, things aren't available all the time. It's only now that they are, and because they're shipped around the world. The argument also ignores the fact that humans have cultivated almost all plants that we consume over thousands of years, specifically to be less toxic. But does that mean we should have? Plant toxins are bitter for a reason, so that we can detect potential harmful substances and avoid them. Okay, so tell me about broccoli. That's bitter and horrible. Should we be avoiding that? I would say yes. But apparently they're okay in your book. We cultivated our plants to be less bitter, which translates into them having less plant toxins. This actually makes our crop more vulnerable because we bred their natural defenses out of them. The evolutionary argument, therefore, does not even apply to almost all plants that we eat. It doesn't apply to fruits, and it doesn't apply to cultivated crops. So basically, it doesn't apply to the human diet. Okay, so show me someone consuming wheat and corn on a regular basis, and show me someone who is consuming nothing but meat and eggs on a regular basis. No plants at all. Which one's going to look healthier? I know the answer already. Which one's going to feel healthier? I know the answer already. Don't have to do any tests, don't have to do anything. Conclusion: the carnivore diet is just another diet fad focusing on eliminating allegedly bad food categories and restricting diet to only good food categories. The theoretical justification for this approach is highly flawed, and there is no empirical evidence to support it. Further, there are multiple lines of evidence that restricting one's diet to only meat and eggs is a bad thing for health. Okay, so the evidence that you've provided so far, like referring to Harvard, is evidence that's based on flawed studies. That said meat is bad for you, but it's comparing people that consume meat and other stuff with people that consume more meat and more other stuff, right? That's not those are not very good studies. There is also another layer to the carnivore diet fad. If such a diet were widely adopted, it would be entirely unsustainable. Untrue. The feed conversion ratio for beef, the meat most recommended for proponents, is anywhere from 6 times to 25 times. So even if we take the most favorable number, the world would have to grow about 6 times as many calories as it does now in order to convert all those calories to beef for people to eat. This is far beyond the world's capacity, especially for land and water use. This is a rubbish argument. Where there is demand, there's always going to be supply. I'm not even going to get into anything else. When there's demand, there's supply. Simple as that. That's the way the world works. All right. And if people stop eating another thing, then that supply starts to lessen and eventually stops. So if everyone went away from grain-based products and ultra-processed products and everyone started eating meat, we would adjust. We would work it out. We would replace all these monocrops, and it's just going to work. Inherent, therefore, in the carnivore diet is that this is a diet for select elites. Everyone else can eat plants. This is where you're wrong, buddy. It's plants that are the elites, right? It's the plant eaters that are the elites. This adds an unsavory aspect to what is already a pseudoscientific and harmful fad. Yeah, well, I have a 2-syllable word for you that I'm not going to use on my YouTube channel today, but it starts with W and it ends with cur, and it's got an AN after the W. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Please shoot me an email to realzerocarb@gmail.com if you'd like to share your story. Love to have you on. And check out this video next.